Welcome to the show. Bevelyn Beatty has become a folk hero for cleaning up the graffiti in New York in front of Trump Tower. And also, there's a lot of videos of her explaining a few things to white liberals across the country. This is the Patrick Coffin Show. Subscribe to this channel. If you're listening via YouTube, hit the notification bell. Don't look for the show. Let the show come to you. Love to have you aboard inside Coffin Nation as well. This episode brought to you by Coffin Nation. You can click the link below to join and find out what people in 25 countries are learning about how to live the gospel of Jesus Christ without compromise and without apology. We fight political correctness. We fight the far left. We fight the impulse of chaos represented by BLM and Antifa and all the destructive forces that are against marriage, the family, and Western civilization. So check out coffinnation.com and find out more. As promised, I'm looking forward to this conversation that I've been talking about inside Coffin Nation. Bevelyn Beatty was our featured hero last week inside Coffin Nation and the Coffin Report for her amazingly brave work, literally taking the message of sanity to the streets. Bevelyn Beatty joins us now. Thanks for your time, Bevelyn. I know you've got a lot of folks wanted to talk to you, so thank you.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Let's hit the rewind button and talk a little bit about how you got here from where you grew up. I understand that you grew up in North Carolina. Tell just a little bit about, say, your first couple of decades, how you were formed and your family background.
Well, so I was born in Staten Island, New York, and I ended up moving to Charlotte, North Carolina when I was 3 because my dad was on the run from murder. So he had moved to North Carolina, and basically we grew up there. When I was around 5 years old, my mom and dad had broken up after being together for about 12 years. And so he was no longer in the household. He was still in my life, but just not there in the household. And it definitely was a shift as far as the structure went. I see immediately the moment he left, the structure was gone. And so just growing up, my mom dealt with a lot of bipolar depression and issues like that. And, we weren't really a Christian family, didn't really know the Lord like that. And so I just kind of grew up rough, inner city kid. My mom had 5 of us and she was on welfare and, she was going through what she was going through with her, addictions and issues and things like that. And, we dealt with a lot of abuse as children and just a lot of things. And of course, my dad being absent didn't help. And so as I got older, I just became just like a typical inner city girl, partying, drinking, smoking, and this was probably after high school. High school, I was pretty decent. I was still a little trouble here and there. But once I got into college, I just fell like into the smoking weed and the going out and drinking with my friends and just kind of living this rebellious life. And just being a confused kid because I grew up in such a broken home. And I fast forward, I get kicked out of school and I have some friends, they're doing scamming and money laundering. And my mom and dad don't know about it, but I was like money laundering and getting large sums of money in illegal ways. And then I ended up going to jail. I actually turned myself in and I went to jail for 7 days.
You turned yourself in and did a week in jail? Did
a week in jail. And I was in there for a week because my dad was trying to bail me out. Now, mind you, everything shocked to him. He just finds out I'm in jail and he's like, I got to get my daughter out of jail. So while I'm in jail, I'm sitting there for 7 days and I meet this woman who has this gift of like prophecy. And she tells me about a time that nobody else knew about. It was, I think, about a month before I got arrested that I came home from partying with my friends and drinking. My roommate was in his room sleeping. And mind you, I had a gay roommate back then. I was very liberal, but based off culture, partying, drinking, gays, and other stuff that comes with the package. So I end up coming home. My roommate is in his room sleep. I go into the bathroom and I cut the water on and I'm crying and crying and crying out to the Lord because I felt so hopeless. I felt empty inside and I felt like not enough partying, drinking, sex, drugs could fix this empty hole inside of me and loneliness I felt. And I was suffering severe depression, and I really didn't know it, nor did I take the time to acknowledge it because I was hiding it. So then she told me about that night, and I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I knew this is God speaking to me because that was the night I was crying to God and God alone. No one else was there.
So the only person who knew about that incident, you were obviously had the water on to hide your tears from your roommate. Only you and God knew that happened.
Only me and God knew that happened. So when she told me about that night, I knew. I was like, yeah, this is God speaking to me. There's no other way. So then she just said, you have to change your life. If you don't change and go to the Lord, you're headed to death. And I was like, death? Oh no, honey, I'm not trying to die. I want to live. And I'll tell you something else. And you're the first person I've ever told this in an interview. Mm-hmm. She also had mentioned I was dating a guy, and this guy was like extremely obsessed with me. Like it was like obsession, somewhat stalking. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was like serious. And like, I would play with his feelings in and out, in and out. Sometimes when I felt like being bothered, deal with him. When I didn't, I didn't deal with him. And she also said, there's a guy that you're entertaining and you better stop. And I always had it in my spirit. Like I knew if we ever went too far, he would hurt me because it was just too obsessed. And I knew I was playing too much with his feelings. But for her to say that too, there's so much she said. But, I don't know why I felt the need to say that now. But yeah. So when she told me these things, I knew this was the Lord speaking. And I was like, okay, God, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to submit. So when I finally got bailed out of jail, you couldn't get me to do anything wrong. You couldn't get me to steal a pack of bubble gum. Like you couldn't get me to do nothing wrong. Mm-hmm. And I was like, Lord, there was a fear and trembling in doing wrong because I grew up doing wrong. All I knew was wrong. I didn't really know how to do right, even though I felt in my heart when I was wrong. But I just was like, Lord, I'm going to stand still. I'm going to have faith in you, to trust you because I don't know I don't know what to do. I don't know what's next. And then a year later, I meet my mentor, now my best friend, Edme Siobhan. And basically, she just mentored me in the gospel. She kind of showed me how to get out on the streets and really encouraged me to get out and be an evangelist and grow in the Lord. And as I got out in the streets, I became a conservative because I seen being in the inner cities, you see what fatherlessness does to a community and what drugs and sex and sin does to a community, and it'll make you really conservative really quick. And when you align with the word of God, that's what you got.
Bevelyn, let's press pause just a little bit on that because you said something really important, and it's come up in a number of interviews that I've done on the causes of social chaos. And let's just focus in my mind as you were saying. Your dad came to rescue you from jail. He left and caused so much damage by his absence. And I've been putting some pieces together here. Let me just throw it past you and see what you think. That I believe 2 of the 3 foundresses of Black Lives Matter are lesbians. And I think all of them have this one thing in common, an abusive or an absent father. So when I see the sign, smash the patriarchy, the Latin word patris means father. It's where we get the word patriotic. Patriarchy is sacred order with the father as the servant leader. If you don't have that in your life, you're going to hate all men. You're going to despise the whole symbol of a father, which is the very thing that you need, right? You need that infilling that only God the Father can provide. Does that resonate in your experience?
I mean, 100%. I think the only reason why I never went that far is because you got to remember some of these women, they probably never even met their father before.
Right.
It's just no father around. I had a daddy in a sense, and even when he left, I was raised a daddy's girl. I think that's natural for most young girls. They're daddy's girls, and it was like this dire loyalty I had to my dad, even when he was absent.
Yep.
My mom trash talked my dad in front of me, right? And all of that gave me an understanding. It was so I had to transition that same energy to the Lord, and it was easy for me to do when the time was right because I understood some type of authority and leadership. So just to co-sign everything that you're saying, you're right. When you don't have that, and you see it as just control, and it's only what you hear, because you've never experienced it in your household. So it's only what you hear and what you presume it to be. And a lot of it is really just a broken heart, envy, and jealousy towards those who actually have had a father and have had some type of stability. And so it's like, smash it down. We don't want it. If we can't have it, no one can. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And that also angles you if you're living kind of almost like with a stump. You got a limb missing, but the limb is part of your heart, and that inclines you to accept a false substitute, whether it's a bad man who has some good qualities, or a drug, or some compulsive behavior that keeps you distracted from that primal loss. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I mean, it's the filler, because really all of us come out of the womb needing a father. The male figure is that substitute that comes in, and basically that trainer that kind of preps us to go to the Lord, to go to God as the Father. But we're literally the gateway. Parents are the gateway to leading these children to God. So when these parents are disrupted, either they're absent or they're totally toxic and full of themselves, they distort these kids. I know for a fact, like, I say that my mom was diagnosed bipolar for the medically inclined individual. But let's be real. That's demonic possession. I was raised dealing with someone who was dealing with war with the demon day and night. So there were times that my mom would come home one minute, she's in a good mood, and then there's another time she's coming home and she's ready to hit us and beat us. And the things she would say, it was of the devil. But as kids, we didn't understand that. We only saw the person. So for a while, my siblings are still kind of getting over that trauma that we dealt with our mother. And then on top of that, by dad not being there was no way for him to defend himself nor counsel the accusations against him when she would say that he wasn't nothing and he could care less about us and he hates us and he doesn't want us. He's not there to defend himself. So now you've got two people that you automatically trust when you come out of the womb and that you love, and now everything about them is distorted. So you go into this world thinking that the whole world is corrupt. Everything else is distorted. It's corrupt. Take it down. We don't want no parts of it, because if it's corrupt at home, it has to be corrupt everywhere else.
Did the kind of trash talk about your dad backfire? Did that kind of fortify the love that you had for him in a way, because it led you to want to defend him?
100%. For me personally, I always loved my dad. You could not, as a little girl, when my mom would do it, she'd be sitting with her friends. And I would say, I'm 5. I'm saying, Mommy, please don't talk about my daddy. I don't like it. Don't talk about my daddy. And then, her response was to pop me in my lip. And so I would have a busted lip. But it was something in me naturally to just have this love for my dad that just was incorruptible. And I say that's for every other child. And I believe that's why I have such a strong connection with God the Father now, because I believe he instilled that in me. But now and for some kids, when the parents do that, they make the absent dad look bad now. But when the kid grows up and sees truth, they're going to be like, wait a minute. Some things you just don't do. You don't bash a child's parents in front of the child. You just don't do that. It's just certain things you don't do, But my mom she didn't know better, and she knows better now.
Did that all help in the forgiveness process? The fact that you knew that it's kind of like Jesus on the cross, right? Forgive them, for they know not what they do. You just said it. Because a lot of kids, they resent one or both parents for decades. They can't. It's like they're drinking poison, thinking it's going to exact revenge on someone else. But you didn't do that.
Yeah, for me, I think I forgave my mom. I always have forgiven my mom, but there was a lot of trauma. And I never really knew how to release the trauma. Like, just in her presence, sometimes I was triggered. Just being around her. My patience was like, I give her 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I'll talk. Like, I never disrespected my mother. I would never curse at my mom or things like that. For me personally, I didn't know how to address certain things. So if I had to, 5 minutes with chit chat, but then I'm out. Because I would never disrespect her. I'd rather leave and get out of her face rather than disrespect my parents. If that's just something that was in me,
Yep.
I'd never disrespected my parents. I don't got it in me to do. I'm sorry. But there was just this slim patience I had with my mom. But everything shifted. Now, I always forgiven my mom, and I had always been close with my dad. My dad died in 2019, September 18, 2019. And for me, I understood how important forgiveness was because I realized once a person is gone, that's it. There's no take backsies. There's no reversing it. And you realize how much some things are just not worth it because the time is so limited and we don't realize that until they're gone. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And my mom, I had already forgiven her, but I had to release the trauma. And I even seen for her, she had a hurt and anguish in her. She had, even though she didn't like my dad, she loved my dad. And so when he died, it hit her. It hit her, harder because there was still this grudge she had against him. And now he's gone. There's no apologies. There's no, So personally, I had to feel for my mom in a sense and really just kind of really be the comfort she needed in that moment because I had already forgiven. And just release that trauma. So I don't know if that explains it well, but I mean, I think it took for my dad to pass away, but I had already forgiven my mom, already forgiven my dad, but
Yeah. My dad died a year before yours did. And it gives you, there's 100 lessons when your father dies. One of them is the brevity of life and the importance of saying and doing the things now. Yes. So when I watched you, the first time I saw you on YouTube, Bevelyn, I didn't see the paint thing first. I saw you. You had a poncho on, and there was a well-meaning white liberal woman with a hat, standing like this. Her body language is kind of funny, and you were going through a brief history of the Democratic Party and the backdrop of slavery and all the talking points that Democrat politicians throw at everyone about what blacks and whites are supposed to do and think. And then I saw the literal and metaphorical splash you made in front of Trump Tower. You seem like, just watching the footage of you, you seem totally alive, completely without fear, like you're walking in a kind of, not that you don't have the emotion of fear, but you're sort of beyond it. Yeah. It takes an enormous amount of resolve to break the taboo, to stand out from the crowd and say something, especially something like Jesus matters. How did you decide to do that? To publicly stand up? And there's a bit of danger involved. I mean, there are crazy people everywhere. But maybe start with the thing that happened first, because I honestly have no sense of which came first and which came second.
Okay, so the Chaz actually happened first. Then the painting was second. And I think what really got me to this place was just God had proven himself so much in my life. He had really split Red Seas for me. And I think the one thing he did that was so amazing was he saved my dad before my dad died. That was a huge prayer of mine. Huge. And so when my dad passed away, I'll never forget, I was in a car and I just was crying. I'm wailing. But I'm wailing because it would have been difficult for me had he not got saved. Because I know I would have never seen him again. You know what I mean? But by him getting saved, I realized, wow, I'm going to see him again. And God answered a prayer because, I mean, this was I knew the time was coming. I knew it was coming. I didn't realize how soon, but I knew it was coming. And I just stood, right? So that for me, and all of this stuff that's going on, I'm seeking the kingdom. And I'm not really badgering my dad, but I'm going forth and trusting the Lord. And his promises are coming to pass. Seek ye the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else will be added unto you. By faith. And then as I'm growing by faith, it's turning into belief because now I know the promises and they're always met. Nothing returns void. I mean, he makes the impossible happen. And even when I don't have explanation for it, he answers the smallest, minute prayer. And he's just telling me to be obedient, right? Yeah. So I'm doing it and I'm seeing God just show his face every time. And I'm seeing God jump at an opportunity to bless me, jump at an opportunity to answer a prayer. I'm seeing my family's face turn from the devil and come to the Lord. I'm actually seeing people that hate, family members of mine that hated Trump. They're now Christian. I had a sister who said Jesus wasn't the only way. Now she says Jesus is the only way in Trump 2020. That's a miracle. If you knew where we started from to where we're at now, and it wasn't because I was working on her, I was working on the kingdom. So you can imagine, it's like an investment. You put in $20 and you get back 40. What you gonna do? You're gonna put that 40 back in and get 80, and then you're gonna keep doubling up because you realize this is sufficient. This works. When I focus on it and I do what I'm supposed to do, the return is great. In the same way, it's like as long as I keep my eyes on Christ, I don't have to worry about my life. I don't have to worry about myself. I don't even have to worry about my family. He's taking care of them. I have absolutely nothing to lose. And the same way a person is very dangerous in this world when they don't care about their life and they don't care. They don't have nothing to lose. They're the most dangerous people to deal with. In the same way, when Christians are dead to self and they have absolutely nothing to lose anymore, they're dangerous to the devil. And
that's awesome. Yeah. That reminds me of the movie, that insight right there, Unbreakable. It was Night Shyamalan's follow-up movie to The Sixth Sense. Samuel Jackson and Bruce Willis. I don't know if you saw it, but the bad guy's trying to find out who the polar opposite of him is, right? So he sets all these bombs off and all these terrible incidents and sees who survives because he's looking for the opposite of himself. So I never thought of it that way, that people on the street who are angry, who are on the devil's side, if you will, they have no fear because they don't care. But on the other pole, if your friendship with Christ has risen to that level where you've already died to yourself and you've taken up the cross, right? Christ does not say, take up your cross yearly or monthly or weekly. It's daily. So that makes you a threat. That makes you a person of interest to the devil. But the victory is already won. It's not, in a way, it's not a fair fight, is it?
No, it's not. I win off top. And I mean, for me personally, I see myself as the wife of Christ. I see Christ as my husband. And I know as a wife, I'm called to submit and honor my husband and respect my husband. And he also says, those who love me will obey me. And we know that God placed in a husband's mentality an understanding of love through respect. They don't get it no other. They don't understand it no other way. Affections and emotions, it's cute, but it don't cut it. Respect is numero uno. In the same way, God is the same way. And this respect is numero uno. If you love me, obey me. And so for me, and I'm realizing, okay, yes, I love you, I'm obey you, but there's benefits to obeying you. Guess what? He's always right. It's right. It's good. It's only to my benefit. I can't lose. So it's a win-win for me. And that's why I don't have to look, behind my shoulder and I'm sleeping without peace. I rest easily every night. And I know the devil is out to get me. I know there's a target on my head. I got like Chinese Communist Party people commenting on my videos on Facebook. So I know that eyes are on me because I'm a threat. Because when you really serve the Lord and you go full force, you are a threat to the devil and you got a target on your back. But I also know that they're uncircumcised Philistines. And I'm serving the army of the living God. So I'm going to win, period.
I want to get to the paint on the Black Lives Matter graffiti. I call it graffiti. Some people call it a mural. To me, a mural is a work of art. This is just block letters that a politician thought would be a good idea. But was that an outgrowth of At the Well Ministries? You street activity? Well, putting the paint on and showing up at rallies to dialogue with people?
Yeah, we do all of that. We hit the worst places nobody wants to go to. We've even went to address a Black Lives Matter mob, who really was a bunch of white liberals and a couple of Spanish, a bunch of token Negroes. But I mean, again, this is where the devil's at. So now we here. Yeah.
So At the Well Ministries, based on John chapter 4, right? One of the most rich Bible passages. It's not long, and normally I'm really allergic to reading. But I want to read a portion of John chapter 4 because the backdrop is interracial relations. Now, Jesus had to go through Samaria, so he came into a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. The noon part's going to be important in a second. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You're a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" And John says, "For Jews do not associate with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said. So he goes from Jew to sir, right? "Now you have nothing to draw with, and the well's deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I will give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I will give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." He told her, "Go and call your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, "You're right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you've had 5 husbands, and the man you have now is not your husband. What you've just said is quite true." "Sir," the woman said, "I can see that you're a prophet." So now he's Jew, sir, now he's prophet. "Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem." "Woman," Jesus replied, "believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming and has now come when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in the spirit and truth." What I love about this, Bevelyn, I know you've read this many more times than I have. Him meeting her at noon is a significant thing, I think, because it was the custom then to draw water in the morning when it's cooler. That's when the women, the kind of the neighborhood, the gossip mill, the scuttlebutt, right, the kind of grapevine happens. But she doesn't do it then because she doesn't want to suffer their stares, because they know she's the woman with 5 husbands, maybe a prostitute. We're not exactly sure what the word in Greek means. So she suffers the unbearable heat of the day, and that's where Christ meets her. And all his questions kind of draw more and more truth about the coldness of the water, which is what they have in common, right? Here's divine purity himself with a woman with 5 husbands. What do they have in common? My spiritual father, Bishop Sheen, says they have in common a love of cold water on a hot day. Why did you select that chapter as a kind of the lens through which everything else you do?
Because there was a thirst I had, and he was the drink. He offered himself. And the fact that he could unveil and reveal to me who he was through my own transgressions, and yet at the same time still offer a drink and say, I can fulfill you. That right there is like, when you are truly thirsty for the Lord and you finally get a drink from him yourself, and you didn't have to go to no pastor, no Bible, and all of this other stuff. I mean, God himself came directly to you and said, "I am offering myself before you. You drink of me and you will never thirst again." It is a profound moment. It's profound. And for someone who's that desperate, they have nothing left but to let other people know about this. Come and see about this man. Come and see about this prophet who's told me my whole life and has basically come to be the filler of the emptiness inside of me. So for us, we knew this, we were thirsty. I'm going to tell you something. One thing me and Ed may have in common is that we both came to Christ because we were dealing with severe depression. We acknowledged that we were weak and we were empty inside, and we were humble enough to accept the water. And so in different ways, he brought his water to both of us, and he fulfilled our thirst. And so now it would be selfish to hold this for ourselves and not go and share this with the rest of our lost friends, our lost Samaritan brothers that nobody wants to deal with. These are the filthy Samaritans. No one wants to deal with them. The chosen prophets won't even come in and deal with them. And guess what? The Lord sent us to do it. Come and see about a man.
What do you do? Where do you go?
We go everywhere. We go across country. We've been in Africa. We go to Amsterdam. We've been to the red light district to talk to prostitutes. We've been in crack houses. We've been in townships. We've been in Skid Row. We've sat in homeless people's tents. We everywhere that nobody wants to go, we go. And I'm gonna tell you how real it is, though. We even go a place that a lot of people really don't want to go. Um, Dealing with the wealthy. We don't just deal with the poor, we deal with the wealthy because they're still poor in spirit as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord has given us this ability to minister to someone as low as the ground, but then also someone as high up, and still tell them about this living water that's available to them, and it's Jesus that will fill their thirst. And so we go there. You know what's so crazy? We never really. Sitting right here, we never really acknowledge the poor. The wealthy that we deal with. We always speak about the poor.
Mm-hmm.
We always speak about the lowest parts. But you know what? We deal with a lot of rich, very wealthy, arrogant people who, for some reason, are still humble enough to say, listen, I'm empty. And for some reason, when I sit with you guys and I talk to you about Jesus, I feel filled. And I don't feel like there's a motive or you want something from me, but I feel like I can be myself and I can be filled. And it's the love of Christ. That's
well, our Lord never warns the poor about their access to the kingdom of heaven. He warns the rich again and again, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that people misapply the Bible. They half hear it and then they remember it wrongly. It does not say that money is the root of all evil, but the love of money is the root of all evil.
Mm-hmm. And we forget about the blessings of Abraham. Remember, Jesus had a treasurer. Peter was a businessman. At least 3 affluent businessmen were his disciples. Okay. And he still had people investing. Jesus had 2 women that were investing in him and sowing seed into him to go out. So Jesus wasn't broke. People assume because, when people say, I want to come with you, Jesus, I want to come with you. He said, but listen, Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Are you ready for? He wasn't saying I'm poor, be poor with me. He was saying, listen, I'm out here getting things done. This ain't no sit at home and kumbaya type of move. We out here busting a move. And me and Edna are experiencing hotel to hotel, hotel, hotel. Right now, Son of Man is just kind of going out and doing what they got to do for the kingdom. Nonetheless, it doesn't mean you're supposed to be broke. The money is not supposed to be Lord over you. You're supposed to be Lord over the wealth, and the wealth is for the kingdom. God is a capitalist. He multiplies. That's why you can get one orange seed, put it in the ground, it creates a tree, and get 100 fruit and thousands of seed from that one seed. In the same way, God gives us enough, and he continues to bless us as long as we multiply it. We see a lot of Christians who God take care of, but they want to sit at home and pray. So God makes sure they have enough to pay their rent, feed themselves, and do just exactly that yourself. But when you're for the kingdom, he's going to supply the wealth that you need to address and advance the kingdom. So if you think you want to be broke, by all means be broke. God will take care of you. But if you really want to get out here and be for the kingdom, he's going to supply your needs too. But it's for the kingdom. It's for the kingdom. It's not for yourself. It's not for your own wealth, so you can just be flying around and living good and getting Bentleys and walking around with bankrolls and spending money on vacations. That's not what it's for. It's for the kingdom.
Right. It sounds like you have the both and. There's a principle in Catholic theology called the both and. It runs like a golden thread through the faith. Both human and divine. Both faith and works. Both mercy and justice. A lot of Christians, they just think, I just need to pray. I can pray for hours. And my answer to that is prayer is necessary, but it's not sufficient. The paint didn't splash itself on the sidewalk. The paint, you had to act. Even faith itself is a kind of work, isn't it? Because you're assenting in your will. You're saying, yes, I obey the word of God. I understand this is a message not of human origin, but divine. So I'm agreeing to it. That is a kind of work. Now, did you just do one paint cover over, or was there 2, Bevelyn? 3. Okay, good. I'm glad to have the inside scoop. Same spot? Did you go back to the same street in front of Trump Tower, or was it a different location?
So after we hit that one, as soon as we got out of jail that same night, we hit two more, one in Harlem and one in Brooklyn. We were going to get the one in Staten Island, but it got late and we were tired. And I had like that toxic paint all over my skin. So I started. So I'm like, listen, I got to get home and get this washed off or I'm going to pass out. But yeah, so yeah, as soon as we got out, we did a drive-by painting. We moved all the barricades from the one in Harlem, and then me and Edme sat in the back seat of my Jeep, which my Jeep is messed up. I got to get a whole new Jeep because there's paint all over my Jeep. But we're sitting in the back seat with the cans, and as with the guys driving slowly, we're dumping the paint all over the murals, and then my friend is behind us driving her car right over it so that the tire marks can kind of spread it out.
Poor man squeegee.
And then we also went to the one in Brooklyn, and we just went over there and started dumping paint all over it. And we had our roller brushes, and we were just rolling real quickly to get the paint out. And then some guys, actually black men, came, and they were ready to attack us for covering this sign because they're like, "This isn't right. This is the right way to do it." Because they listen, sitting on the block drinking in the middle of Brooklyn. Nothing's coming up in your neighborhood. Your neighborhood looks like trash. And the only thing you have to hold on to is a street that they painted Black Lives Matter on that people are going to drive over anyway. That's the best they could do to make you feel like you have some type of worth is to pander you by painting on the street Black Lives Matter. Yeah, you ain't got two nickels to rub together just enough to get a 40 ounce. You're out of your mind. But they will fight tooth and nail just for Black Lives Matter. Yeah, we important. But your life is not mattering. Your own life don't matter to yourself. That's why you're sitting on the corner drinking beer and doing nothing with yourself.
I've been saying this since I first heard the phrase Black Lives Matter. From a public relations point of view, it's a really brilliant slogan because it's objection proof. If you raise one eyebrow, well, what about, so Black lives don't matter to you. It's like it's insulated itself from any kind of criticism. And I'm just talking about the way it's been turned into a movement, which is pure. I mean, they don't even hide it. It's pure Marxism. Their goal here is not just racial equality. The goal is to destroy the family. And if you're listening right now and you don't believe me, go to blacklivesmatter.com/whatwebelieve. Don't believe me, believe them.
Believe them. For me personally, the moment someone accuses me, you don't support black people, you don't care about it. No, I said I do. And you virtual signaling and you're phony and you're fraud. For you to even support that organization, that shows how much you really don't care about black people. And really, before the organization Black Lives Matter came out, when were you screaming Black Lives Matter? Tell me what you've done in the black community for you to prove that black lives actually matter. I know two rich white people who have two black boys that they take from church every weekend and tend to them and love on them like they're supposed to. If you really believe Black Lives Matter, you would be discipling and getting involved with your community. And it shouldn't even be about black. It should be about the lost. You're supposed to be helping the orphans and the widows. Okay. So these children who don't have daddies or don't have mothers, be the mother to the motherless, the father to the fatherless. And that means even adults who never had fathers or mothers or had people to love on them and mentor to them. That's what Christians are supposed to be. But now all of a sudden, if you put up a black square and you say Black Lives Matter, you woke and you care about black lives, but you won't even go into a ghetto. You would never get caught in Southside Chicago talking about Black Lives Matter. You'll be in your suburban neighborhood in front of your library with a sign and this is your way of looking like you care. Shut up.
Yeah. Whoever coined virtue signaling should get some kind of award.
That's what it is. Virtue signaling.
All right, I want to ask you about Joe Biden. I was surprised and not surprised because I believe Mr. Biden has some serious mental impairment. I say that with no pleasure, with no political intention whatsoever. It's not just gaffes. There's obviously a problem here, and I don't know why someone who loves him doesn't step in and say, Joe, just go fishing and take care of your grandkids. When he said on NPR, was on camera to Lulu something, a Latina NPR hostess, that I know you know the quote because I watched your video on it, that the black community, with a few exceptions, don't have diversity. And then his whole face becomes sunny and full of glory, whereas the Latino community, they have diversity. I couldn't believe it. Now, to be fair, he did kind of a sorry, not sorry the day later. But it was by Twitter, and it wasn't really an apology anyway.
No.
What was your reaction to that? I was flummoxed.
for me personally, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't offended. This is what he believed. We know this. I'm not surprised. Like, come on. That's like being surprised a thief stole something. Come on now. Like, he's a Democrat. This is what they.
So he forgot that it's not the 60s and that he's surrounded by his white liberals, and this is how they treat black people. It was like you ever heard the definition of a gaffe? I love this. I forget who said it. A gaffe is when a politician accidentally says the truth in public. He was just letting the mash drop, right? Am I wrong?
That's exactly right. That's what happened. I guess you again, like you said, he's not there. So it's so when you're not cognizant about certain things you're doing, it's hard to really keep the mask on and paint a face and really kind of respond to what they want to hear. And we know from dementia issues, when they talk, they just start to say what's on their mind. They pass the point of like covering things up, like they just word vomit. He's just being honest. I actually respect his honesty. I appreciate that.
No filter.
No filter. And you want to know what's so sad? In a sense, he's kind of right. He believes that. He believes that because that's what we've shown him. We've taught him that this is how black people think. This is their mindset, and they're no different. They will never be different. So he in his whole heart, from what he's seen in politics, believes that. And we've shown it to him. So, I mean, for us, it's like we kind of set ourselves up, because the same black people he talking about are the same ones who will scream in a second, white privilege, we're not equal, we don't get treated right, we need welfare, we need more this, we need more. We set ourselves up, and then we get mad when we hear stuff like that. I mean, he just being real.
That's interesting insight. Do you think he was tackling or revealing an uncomfortable truth as he sees it, that he only sees he sees blacks as monolithic? And also the context was he's talking to a Latina broadcaster. So he has a vested interest as a good politician to demagogue. He wants to just throw as much, sweet honey on her as he can.
That's exactly what it was. He was throwing honey on her. And he was basically trying to kind of get the Latinos in. At the same time, you got to remember, Democrats are really done with us. Like, come on now. They wrung out. We're a dry rag. They can wring nothing else out of us at this point. Either we're jumping ship or we're killing each other in our neighborhoods. So as far as they're concerned, they're trying to pander and get these Latinos on board because that's the next best thing for them, right? So I do believe he was kind of pandering and trying to sweet talk her. And at the same time, I think he was just utilizing his opinion of black people to do it. And I mean, in a sense, did he kind of throw us under the bus? Yes. But did we kind of give him the ammo to do it? Yes.
You don't seem to fit in, Bevelyn, with what quote unquote black conservatives is supposed to sound like. You just sound like you're utterly unique. That you don't need to be part of someone's tribe or club. You don't need to be invited to certain conferences. That's got to be a freeing thing right there.
Yes, it is. Whom the sun sets free is free indeed, honey. I am a Christian. A real Christians roll with me. If you're not solid in your walk, first of all, I'm going to smell it. And you're not going to like certain things I'm saying. But if you serve the same God and we're submitted to the same husband, we're on the same page. And if we not, I mean, you can get on the winning team, but at the end of the day, I'm going with Jesus. And anything outside of that is not my problem. I'm not compromising for nobody. Y'all don't pay my bills. Jesus takes care of me. That's my boss. That's who I answer to.
Speaking of boss and alpha males, how did it get into the public consciousness that Donald J. Trump is a racist? This is the mantra you hear 10 million times. Do you see any evidence of that?
Okay, this is the thing that is going to trip everybody out, okay? And black people know this. They'll never admit it. Some of them won't. Some will. But let's be very clear. We always wanted us an outspoken, strong president, what you see, what you get type of guy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for. You wanted a black president, you got one. Unfortunately, he's not that dark. He's just kind of orange. Sorry, buddy. Because Trump is black. I don't know what y'all talking about. Trump. And I'm not saying black is in a sense of color. I'm saying black is in the attitude. I mean, I think Trump is blacker than a lot of black dudes. You got some black conservatives who are not as ghetto as Trump. Trump is really like, he's probably got some Irish in him, right? Trump got some Irish. That's that Irish. That's that Irish. I think that's that Viking and that Irish in there. That's that. Trump, listen, Trump on a different level. And at the end of the day, he motivates real men to be men. And Trump just on some, listen, this what you see is what you get. There's no finesse. There's no corruptible plan in the midst. I mean, if you can't think this guy's racist. If you do, I'm going to assume you're racist. I'm going to assume you think he's racist because he's white. And you're quick to call him a racist because actually you're a racist. Period. He's not racist. There's no way he can be racist. Even before he was a president, he was hanging out with Tupac and Suge Knight, for God's sakes. Are you kidding me? Snoop Dogg was rolling with him before he jumped ship because Donald Trump put an R next to his name. He was popping champagne in Mar-a-Lago with P. Diddy and them. And then all of a sudden, once he runs and puts an R next to his name, now he's a racist. So he wasn't a racist when you were sipping champagne in his building in Mar-a-Lago, right? No, stop it. He's done more for the black community than any other president aside Abraham Lincoln. And can nobody debate that or negate it? You can't.
You say ghetto, I would say punk. President Trump's punk. Like, subverts expectations, not part of the club, has no time for check pants Republicans.
No. Okay, then same difference, because that's what he is.
Yeah.
Trump is a grown man. A lot of people don't understand what a grown man is, so they throw these names out because they can't handle someone who's a grown man who says mean what he says and is about his business. Guess what, you guys? This is the way God called men to be. And I mean, it may seem intimidating, but it's good for you. That's what you want. You don't want no sissy, okay? Obama was a sissy, and I believe he was a homosexual as well. I'm going to be very with you. Yeah, 100%. But Obama was gay. He was following. Listen, I ain't gonna get into all that. Obama's a homosexual. You legalize gay marriage, you gay as far as I'm concerned. Period.
He flip-flopped on that too, right? He was. You can find compilations of him opposing it before Obergefell Hodges. But you're saying his heart wasn't in it. He was. First term, no, because again, we was really conservative. That was a lot for us to take in. Once he got in the second term, he made sure to do it. And of course, he lit the White House up as a rainbow. It wasn't enough just to legalize it. You lit the White House up as a rainbow. You're gay, period. There's no negating that. I find people who are triggered by Trump and not triggered by President Obama have their own daddy issues. Trump, by his salient masculine presence, if you've got a daddy wound, he's gonna make he's like magical mask removal cream.
That's a fact. Because I'm gonna tell you something. My dad was an alpha male. My dad, people would never know that, but my dad, when they see me, they see the strong spirited person. But my daddy, oh no, he used to be like, listen, women are not boisterous and loud. You a lady, you need to act like a lady. And it was no, I'll tell you a funny story. So he would take us to get our hair braided. When he would take us on the weekends and stuff like that, we would get our hair braided, right? Mm-hmm. And so when he would take us, I remember one time he took us to this girl. Now, mind you, my dad was also a womanizer. He had a lot of different women that he dealt with. So that's why sometimes he was there. He wasn't, because and also he was on the run. He lived an illegal lifestyle. So he couldn't be there all the time. But when my daddy was around, it was safety and it was structure. Okay? It just, you knew when daddy was around, you were safe. That's just what it was. Yep. So one time, we going to get our, my dad's taking us to get our hair braided. My dad always had us get our hair braided like boys for some reason. We would wear baggy clothes, and he would always make sure we get straight back braids because he didn't want us to look no type of nothing that boys would like, right? So he takes us to this girl, and he's like, tells her, do straight backs on their hair. Give them some straight back braids. And the girl's like, oh, well, I say, why you don't let me do some designs on the hair? That would be so nice. Like, they're girls. Why don't you let me do He looked dead at her. He said, listen, let me explain something to you. These are my daughters. If you want to put something in your daughter's hair, then that's what you do. But I want you to put straight backs in my daughter's hair. Now, it was two things that he was checking. First of all, don't undermine what he asked in front of his kids. My dad was very big on that. Once he said it, that's what it was. Do not be disrespectful and undermine him. And number two, it was like, listen, these are my kids, and you a woman, you stay in your lane. If I asked you to do something, you do it. Now, was he a little bit more like aggressive with his masculinity in a sense? Yes. But you know what? As a young girl growing up, I knew what he said was what it was. And you just respected it. That was the authority. There was no questioning or getting loud or rude with my dad. My head would get knocked off. I knew that.
What's the next plan? I know you can't really predict the future, but do you have more activities like the paint covering, debates? I would imagine you'd be a formidable debater.
Well, I haven't really had any debates yet. No one's really kind of like put me up for a debate. So that would be interesting. I'm open to that. And I would want the most liberalist person in the world, as long as they're not going to curse and be disrespectful. But, you know,
that's something for me to pray for. God, I'd love to see that. Because the country is so polarized right now, and people are so afraid to engage the other side. They just want to stay in their echo chambers, which is one of the reasons why I'm leaving Twitter. Twitter is just, I say something cute, snarky, and witty, and my friends say something back, but we never really get to have a conversation with other people. Yeah. And that's what's missing.
Yeah, that's what's missing. So I'm with that. I'm totally with the debate. So we'll pray about it. Right now we're gonna go home for a day, and then we gotta fly up to Las Vegas. And then I'll go see my family, and then we go to Chicago. And I think it'll be kind of copacetic from there for a little bit. And then in September, we go right to Europe on the 4th. We leave September 4th. We head out to. Yeah.
I have a debate candidate for you.
You do? Who?
Yeah, Illinois State Representative LaShawn Ford said this week that public schools need to do away with teaching history curriculums because it drives white privilege and racism. He says, This is an actual thing. This is not a parody. Representative Ford argued that the state's history curriculums do not sufficiently focus on contributions by women, members of Black, Jewish, and LGBTQ communities, and other groups. So this is a press release issued by his office, published by NBC in Chicago. So all the founding fathers, Abraham Lincoln, it just fosters white privilege. Where do you start? Again, half the news headlines, Bevelyn, they should come with an asterisk. This is not a parody.
I mean, I actually would love to debate somebody like that. I would love to, because I mean, that would be phenomenal. But what do you say to something that's stupid? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out, how do you respond to that type of stupidity? So now we're going to erase history, and we're going to just make it this fairy. What are you working for, Disney? So you just want to create new fairy tales of what I don't understand that. I don't know how to respond to that type of stupidness. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. Then there's Oprah, worth over $2 billion. Amazing.
Oh, your whiteness. You got to use your whiteness. Your whiteness. Now, listen, you richer than everybody else. You on private jets and you sipping champagne in the highest building in Chicago, but we still got to use our whiteness to help you. That chick is a nut. She's a devil. Some of this stuff is so demonic. It's like, let's call it for what it is. These people are demonic. They are demonically possessed. And the only way to really cut them is with the gospel. I would love to even debate them, because I wouldn't even debate them with facts. I would hit them with the word of God so good. I mean, every single word would be cutting like a knife in them. I would love to do something like that.
I saw on your YouTube channel that you do Bible studies. Mm-hmm. What's the shortest distance between people watching you right now and connecting with you? Would it be atwellministries.org, or would it be YouTube channel? What's the shortest distance?
Atwellministries.org, and also all of my channels, you can still connect to me. But if you need like a direct prayer, or you have like a specific request, like to, really connect personally, definitely atwellministries.org. But you can also, of course, find me on Facebook, Parler, Instagram, and all of that, and you'll be able to connect with me there.
Tell you what, off the air, give me all your social handles and I'll put them in the show notes. Fair enough?
Fair enough. Okay, so
and to clarify for people who might complain that I didn't bring it up, Joe Biden is what I call a Catholic. He's the licker of the golden calf. He's not a Catholic. He's completely phony. When he's described as a devout Catholic by CNN, I have to laugh. A lot of milk gets spurted from Catholic noses when Joe Biden calls himself a devout Catholic. He has no clue what the church teaches. He's not an example for anybody who wants to hold themselves up as a Catholic. Anyone who's for the destruction of marriage and the killing of babies, you've already drawn the line in your own sand. So I'm sure you knew that, but I wanted to emphasize it.
Amen. Amen. It's the truth. Same way Al Sharpton isn't a Christian, but he says he's a Christian. He calls himself a reverend. But anybody who knows the Lord knows he's not no Christian.
Well, Bevelyn, keep it up. I'm a huge fan. I'm so glad that you were able to spend some time talking to our listeners. We've got people in 110 countries. I know the feedback's going to be great, so you can count on our prayers. I'll send people to atwellministries.org to support you financially and by their prayers, which is obviously more important. So thanks again. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. God bless.
All right. This is the Patrick Coffin Show. Be a saint. What else is there?
Hey, this is Patrick Coffin. If you like what you see and hear and you want to see and hear more, consider joining Coffin Nation as a full member. Just click right here and find out more about what that means. Nipsey, my fedora. That's Coffin Nation, the world's largest online community of culture builders. Click right here. See you on the inside.